Welcome once again to Living in the 21st Century. Joining me today is Chase Linkolupo. He's a former military serviceman, specifically the Army, serving in Afghanistan for more than 10 years, and now he's back into civilian's life. Chase, just introduce yourself.
To know who I am and my military service, you have to know where I came from. I grew up in a poverty-stricken family in the inner city, and we grew up hard. And the military has this unspoken draft. It's called the poverty draft, and they recruit those who are poverty-stricken, young, ignorant, don't know any better, who think that their only recourse for a better life is to join the military, that they don't have any other options because they can't afford college, and the only job opportunities that they have are low-end jobs. So, the military offers all of these great benefits, but you have to sign your life away from them. You have to sign this blank check payable up to your life for the U.S. government. And these wars are fought not for freedom, not for any sort of moral reasons. They're fought for profit. They're profit wars. Oil, opium, resources, they're fought for profit. Contracts. So I grew up in a poverty-stricken family, and I didn't realize that I had any other options. I thought the military would give me some sort of purpose. So I joined the military, and I enjoyed it while I was in it. But what I didn't realize was that the military programs you through basic training to think that you no longer have autonomy of yourself. You are now property of the U.S. government. And it beats you down, and it strips away all of your personal identity, and then puts that stamp on you, U.S. government, right? And then it makes that hard for you to not want to leave the military unless you already had, that understanding beforehand that the military is an imperial system. It is a war machine that profits off of blood and destruction. And I didn't have that when I was younger. I didn't have that recognition. I didn't know that. I may have thought about it, but it didn't click. Not until I was much older, into my mid-20s. And then I stayed in for a decade. I did my tour in Afghanistan, and after I did my tour in Afghanistan, I was reserve status, and I came home, and I was struggling with undiagnosed trauma, addiction. I was homeless for a period of time. I struggled with poverty for years, on government assistance, doing what I could to scrape by and survive any way that I possibly could. And sometimes I do find fault in myself. And I have a social media presence that some people will comment on there and say it's my fault. But it wasn't my fault. It was this system's fault.
Absolutely.
This system is designed to chew people up and then throw them away. It is designed to use people as tools and break them and then dispose of them once they're no longer useful. That is what this system does. So after...
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So after I was no longer useful, the military discarded me. And I just started struggling. I was struggling with my addiction and my undiagnosed traumas. And I was hopping from job to job, drinking and doing drugs. And, I eventually became homeless. And it wasn't until community helped me It wasn't any government assistance that helped me. It was a program called SSVF. And, I had called dozens of different organizations and people, and I finally found one called SSVF, and they got me off of the streets and into an apartment and helped me rebuild my life. For 11 months, they helped pay for my apartment until I was able to get on government assistance and Section 8.
Well, I'm glad you went to this direction, because I believe this is really a strong educational moment for many young people. We can go right away back down to the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and we recognize that after soldiers had completed their tour of duty and they came back home, there was hardly any recognition for them. They were looked down upon as nothing. They went homeless. They were left to suffer. The government didn't take care of them. And it is all because they were drafted into this political ideology that you're fighting for your country. And often when you are a young person not educated to what is going on around you, politically speaking, you go out there with the intentions that you're fighting for your country. You were sent out there by your commander-in-chief, and the result is just over a political ideology. Up to this juncture, the Vietnam War, there's no one specific way of describing what should have been fought or should have been fought in the first place. And we had a lot of soldiers came back mentally incapacitated, some lose their limbs, some in body bags, and I think that was, it was a bad structure for the American system and what young men believe and family believes that going into the army. And don't get me wrong, I admire every person who's going to fight for their country. This is their country. And by all means, they should represent their country. But I believe on the political ideologies that young men don't even have the time to define why they are fighting. They know that they are told you got to go and fight this war. But they don't understand the history or the reason why they are fighting this war. They're just commanded, as you just said. You are told what you have to do is instill in your body that you are now the government's property. So what we command you to do as the government, you have to just do it. And this brings me down to this question. What do you think every young person today should know even before, and I'm not telling anyone not to join the army, because as I said before, everyone has the right to represent their country, especially when the wars are upon their own territory. But the whole ideology about fighting a war in someone else's country before it get to yours, it sometimes don't make sense because you don't even hear any threats. I mean, I'm not open to that privy information, but why would they want to go up to some countries to fight a war that didn't even reach your own territory? Now, I understand the Afghanistan war because bin Laden would have destroyed the World Trade Building. Over 2,500 people were murdered. And I think that's where the Afghanistan war would have started with under George Bush, right? And that had, I understand that perfectly well. But there are wars that doesn't need to be involved in, it doesn't really make sense risking the lives of the American young men and women who has families, who want to be there for their families, who want to probably go to school, get a greater education or do things, right? Rather than just go there fighting. On that premise, what would you want to advise every young man and woman today who wish to join the military to understand the pros and cons, the before and the after?
All right. Let me say this before I get into answering your question.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, the military will absolutely do what it is commanded. That has been historically proven over and over again. Little Rock, Tulsa, Move, Blair Mountain, all of these historical events where the military has turned their weapons on American citizens because the government has told them to. It happens all the time. And the advice that I would give people who are wanting to go into the military, I would say, when you're in, if you have any injuries, it doesn't matter what it is, go to the doctor and get that written down. Get that paperwork, because you will need that once you get out of the military to get the benefits that you deserve. It took me 5 years of fighting the VA to get the benefits that I have now. And now I live comfortably, right? But you have to go to the doctor while you're in the military and get that paper trail. Go to the doctor. Every time you're hurt, go to the doctor. Don't try to tough it out, because I know that your battle buddies will sit there and make fun of you and dog you if you try to go to the doctor. I know when I was in, we would call them sick hall warriors, right? Just make fun of them for going to the doctor too much, because, it's toxic masculinity. And, don't pay any mind to that. Just go to the doctor, get that paperwork taken care of. Hold on to that paperwork, create a binder, put it in slips and files. Hold on to it until you're out of the military. Get the benefits you deserve and what you've earned, and then live the rest of your life comfortably.
Absolutely. One thing, when a young person goes out on the battlefield for the first time in their life, what kind of mind frame do they have? Do it look like some video game in a picture that you're just playing? This is real life, and I'm trying to find the pattern of, if you want to refer to it as brainwashery, because I think, I mean, I've never been in the military, but I think this is a matter of life and death. But at the same very time, I think you're so caught up in a different realm that you don't even see the dangers that you are faced with where you are in the battlefield until something seriously happened to you. What kind of mind frame or mindset do you think the young soldiers have when going into battle?
I think a lot of young soldiers have played a lot of video games, and they think they're prepared for it, they're ready for it. But I have seen soldiers who had that mindset who ended up being cowards after their first time being shot at or bombed. So it doesn't matter how much video games you play until you get to the real life thing. But no, it's not like video games, and you don't know what you're going to do until you're in that moment. When you're in that moment for the first time, your mind goes through a couple of races. It goes through several different scenarios. At least for me, the first time I was ever shot at, I thought about so many different things, and then I went to, all right, well, if this is it, then I guess this is it. It is what it is. Right. So I signed up for this, right? So that's what I ended up on. And then after so long of being over there and getting shot at and bombed on a regular basis, it was like every day, multiple times a day for the entire time that I was over there. It became like a normal thing. It became like routine. Like I'd just be walking down the street and a mortar would be coming in, and I'd just be, all right, whatever. I wouldn't even want to go to a bunker or anything. I just be like, whatever, it's just another mortar. And all of that stuff started affecting me. It started like stirring up, and I started like seeing things and like recognizing patterns at home that I saw over there, and I just brought it back home with me. And I didn't realize that I had done that initially until much later after I'd gotten home.
Absolutely. A few more things I want to ask. Now, with so many soldiers coming back home with post-traumatic stress, do you think that psychiatrists and psychologists who are here that probably never have the understanding of what's going on in the battlefield could give you the kind of mental treatment or, let's say, revival, so to speak, that can really assist and benefit the soldier who's suffering from post-traumatic stress?
Can you say that again?
Okay, so there are many soldiers coming back home with post-traumatic stress. Do you think the psychiatrists and psychologists that we have here is really fully equipped to deal with these kind of situations?
I think that they're equipped as best as they can. It's like having a woman have a male psychiatrist or a black person have a white psychiatrist. You know, they don't understand the dynamics of their experiences, but they can learn as much as they possibly can. But they'll never understand that lived experience.
Okay, that made perfect sense. So what was it like? I mean, you explained briefly just now when you came back to civilization or tried to fit yourself back into normal society. What that experience is like for most soldiers. I mean, you just come off the battlefield where there's so much going on around you, trying to fit into normal civilization where you may meet folks who are looking at you with hate in some cases. They don't know what you just experienced, what you just came out of, especially fighting like 5 or 10 years. I mean, coming back to civilization, there's two different worlds altogether. How is it really possible, or how long would it really take for a person to just get back to a way of normality or a way of living a normal life in a more civilized world? And civilized, we are living in a real messed up word, but how that works?
So, all right, I've already explained my experiences after the military, where I have had these struggles, and they have shaped how I move through the world today. Right now, I have founded a movement called Fights Back, and there are multiple chapters across the country. Different states have Fights Back chapters, like the one here in West Virginia, West Virginia Fights Back. And they are all about mutual aid and community defense. We feed our communities, it's completely grassroots, feed our communities, and we teach each other how to safely and properly utilize firearms and defend our communities, right? So I think getting back to a normal after experiencing combat, I don't think there is getting back to a normal, honestly. There are periods of times in my life that I will have weeks where this probably TMI, but I can't even use the restroom without having to convince myself that it's safe and okay to use the restroom in my own home because my fight, flight, or freeze is so high, like for like weeks at a time, that I can't even get comfortable in my own home. And that's with being medicated for years and being in therapy once a week for years, I don't think there is getting back to a level of normal. I think there's functioning to a certain degree, to where people, appreciate how you're handling yourself. But I don't think you, as an individual in your day-to-day life, what you experience is going to be what you ever will consider normal again.
Okay. One other thing here. Do you think the deployment at this moment now in time of military servicemen in our communities and streets overriding the law enforcement officers, because apparently the government is stating that they are not doing an effective job, that they are scared. And in most cases it is not like that, but they want to use the communities as a practice ground for military servicemen and so forth. Now, bear in mind that the military servicemen have families that when they go into the street walking with their arms, sidearms, etc., it's going to have some kind of mental impact on the community. And that community represents some of the same servicemen family. Do you think, based on what you see and understandings going on right now in this time, do you think is really a reason for that? To have soldiers patrolling our streets? It's like declaring martial law.
It's essentially martial law. You don't have to call it martial law for it to be martial law. Right. It's just a show of authority. He's just puffing his chest, and he's wanting to tell people that he's in charge. I don't think there's any reason for it. Police already murder over 1,300 people every year. The government is at war with the American people. That's obvious. The police over-police our neighborhoods, especially black and brown neighborhoods. And like I just said, over 1,300 people are murdered every single year by the cops. And, there were two Supreme Court cases, DeShaney versus Winnebago and Gonzalez versus Town of Castle Rock. These two Supreme Court cases clearly stated that it is not required by police officers across the country to step in and mitigate any harm to civilians. It is only their job to protect private property and enforce fines and throw people behind bars for prison slave labor. That is all their job is, to arrest people and enforce fines.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So do you think then government is really responsible in some way? I don't want to refer to just one party and not the other, because both Republican and Democrats, this had been going on for a while, where people were seriously assaulted, not really protected by the cops, wrongful killings and so forth, and because they are called men in blue, they have this special privilege over civilian life when their responsibility is to serve and protect. But they were doing far the opposite, and they were getting away with murder most of the times. What common advice, we come down to the last 5 minutes of this program, what advice would you want to give civilians and encouragement to protect themselves mentally? Not by weapons or anything, but mentally, to be able to live and coincide with cops on the streets or even military soldiers on the streets. Is there any advice you would like to leave with them? Read
books about political literature, right? Leftist literature, literature about fascism, and any sort of literature that involves politics with political theory. So anarchy, communism, socialism, all of these different theoretical realms, read about them and study them, and then take that knowledge, knock on the doors in your community, and try to organize. Bring your community together. Start doing things with your community, because we are stronger together. We are stronger in numbers, right? We fall as one, but we are stronger in numbers.
Beautiful. There's a project I would love to discuss with you. I mean, we may have to do it next time. We're down to the last 3 minutes, but we want to look at this project called Project 2025 One and the New World Order, because I think we are living in an absent-minded society where young people don't believe in the New World Order, or they don't believe in certain things. They refer to it as is all mythologies. It doesn't sound correct, or conspiracy theories. And the reality is that the system has it structured so well. That's how it appears, but the reality is that it's right and effective in this time of season. I don't know if you have any knowledge to the New World Order and all that kind of stuff.
So I don't have much knowledge on that. However, I've heard a lot of people call Trump fascist. But this nation has been fascist since its inception. Since the birth of this nation, it has been fascist. You know, we had genocide of the indigenous peoples. We had slavery of Black Americans. Then we had literal apartheid with Jim Crow and black codes of Black and brown Americans. And then we had redlining and mass incarceration, which we still have today, right? This has always been a fascist nation. Trump is just the most recent flare in this country's sickness. Something needs to be done. Something needs to change about this country. This is by design. It's not broken. Nothing's wrong with this country in terms of like something's going on that's not supposed to be going on. This country is working exactly as it was designed to work.
Well, Chase, we come to the last minute of this program. I must say to you, you have a love of knowledge and wisdom to this present time. And I would love to invite you over and next time that we can discuss some more matters. I will try to be more definitive. I probably call you and we can discuss some ideas and speak about it more regularly, because we live in a blind nation, and I think people's eyes need to be open. The ears also need to be open. And I think you're a great person with knowledge and understanding, and also good historic models and concepts of what happened in the past. So at this point, I want to say thank you very much for coming on. We'll touch base again. We'll set up a next.
Thank you for me.
Absolutely, Chase. But for all those who have been tuning in on Living in the 21st Century,